I just searched Instagram for reels about weight loss, and it told me that it can't give me information, but it did give me a number to a hotline. So we're gonna call the hotline and see what they have to say.
Hi, this with the
Hi, my name is Sean. How are you?
Hi, Sean. I'm doing well, thanks. What can I do for you today?
I don't know. I was searching Instagram for content about weight loss just because I wanted to get some quick, understandings and tips, and Instagram told me I should call you guys. So here we are.
Okay, yeah. So basically, like Instagram will give our number when it's folks are searching for like issues relating to food, body image, things like that, because we can help people get connected to like individual care, whether that's like dietitians or if someone's struggling with more like like body image issues and things, like a therapist. So essentially we help folks, like we can answer questions when it comes to like general questions. We can't give like direct advice, but we can answer like questions, get folks connected with dietitians, care teams, whatever they're needing.
That's cool.
Just because some of the weight loss content, isn't always nutritionally sound. It's not always necessarily safe to engage in. So that's why we kind of can be also a resource as well for folks.
That actually sounds really responsible. Why do you think they don't do that when it comes to stuff like back pain, shoulder pain, and rehab stuff?
So I think it's because, like, unfortunately, in recent years, the rise in eating disorders has correlated to, especially like social media usage in like teens, especially, but also just kind of across the board. And so sometimes when folks are, promoting certain weight loss techniques or certain like calorie amounts in diets, what can actually those behaviors can be disordered in some folks and can sometimes take a really dangerous turn into developing into a full-blown eating disorder. So it's almost like early intervention at the source, so that someone, if they are struggling with food, if they are engaging in really, really restrictive behaviors or, like, again, just generally disordered behaviors around food, it's almost like, hey, there is resources out there that can, provide you with an actual professional and get you connected to support so that hopefully, it doesn't become something worse than it is. Or has the potential to be.
I thought I was going to be annoyed that they sent me to you, but I'm actually relieved. This sounds pretty responsible. I'm curious. Do you mind if I ask you some questions because I'm curious?
Yeah, no, please feel free.
How many calls like this do you get every day at your hotline? Not you personally.
Yeah, it's okay. So typically our helpline averages, I would say, maybe 40 calls a day, sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more. We do also have a web inquiry form, so sometimes people, I find especially teenagers, are more likely to like email as opposed to call, just because, some people get nervous, and for a lot of folks, like an eating disorder can be a really, really vulnerable thing to talk about and bring up. So it can be easier for them to not have to verbalize it as much.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's something we've noticed and
sure.
recently.
I appreciate that. And how do you choose who to refer the people to? You said that you can refer them to professionals who can help them with I'll put words in your mouth that you didn't say, more scientifically sound and emotionally responsible support than what they're going to find on the platform. How do you choose who those people are?
Yeah, so that's actually a question we get all the time, even from people who call us on purpose. So with our database of providers, they do have to submit an application, essentially, to be listed. And in that, we will ask for, because again, we are specifically like eating disorders and disordered eating. So we do ask specifically for like professional experience, whether that be working in an eating disorder treatment clinic, or if that is doing an internship somewhere, maybe someone's been in the field a long time. We do request, like, if they've had professional supervision done from someone, who's already been licensed for a while and specializes in this area. And then when someone calls, we can base it off of where they're located. We can look by insurance if someone has insurance. We do our best, like if somebody has like other specific comorbid mental health or health conditions, of course there's always a little bit of barriers because people don't give us their whole, CV or resume, but we do our best to like target the options as much as possible.
That's really cool. How many providers do you have in the network that you refer to?
Because it's across, like we do have providers in we have at least one provider in almost every single state, and of course, typically more than that, especially when it comes to big cities. So we do have at least between providers and programs, because we can also, if somebody needs like a more intensive treatment program, like either like day programming or where they stay and have to live there to stabilize for a little bit, we do have, I don't know the exact number, but at least 1,000 that we also regularly clean up and audit and go through.
That's really cool. Do people ask you specific questions about stuff like GLP-1s and diets on this call, or is that more something that you would send to a provider, or both?
So both. I wouldn't be able to give you, say, like a formal like recommendation. Like sometimes people call us and might ask, well, if I'm in either direction, if I'm trying to gain weight, lose weight, how many calories should I eat, or what would a meal plan look like? And because those are so individualized, even I, being a therapist who specializes in eating disorders, can't give that kind of a recommendation because you're not my client, so to speak. Mm-hmm. But if it's something more general, like, sometimes people do call about GLP-1s and ask, what could be the pros or cons to those, and we can answer like general questions. I always give the caveat, just like any other kind of mental health resource that's like a hotline. I can give you general information. I can give you, I can speak to some experiences that are out there, but with the caveat, it's never to take the place of a formal recommendation, be it from a doctor, therapist, dietitian, generally like an individual care provider.
You are so much better at this than I was expecting the person who picked up the other side of the phone to be. I really appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, of course. And, people sometimes get our numbers, because they might be, looking up weight loss. And we're aware that some folks can engage in intentional weight loss and it not turn into something dangerous, but it's not the reality for all folks. So we like to try and be here. And everyone who answers our helpline is a therapist who specializes in eating disorders. So like I said, not a replacement for therapy, but we all do have specialized training in this area. So always happy to help, whether that's just answering questions, providing resources, whatever someone needs.
I have a ridiculous question for you that just came to mind. If the entire company gets...
I can do my best to answer.
If the whole company gets 40 calls a day, you answered on like ring 3. How are you readily available to pick up my call?
So our team is actually, for folks who answer the phones, is only about 3 people. We have one person who helps out sometimes, but we do our best to try and be, as available as possible. We stagger, when we log on, just like anyone else might. And when we give out resources, it can take up to 24 hours. So, there's always some wiggle room, after, if you were to ask me for dietitians right now, for example, it might be before the end of my shift that I'm able to get you the email, but we do always get them out within 24 hours. And sometimes we have to take messages. It happens.
Yep.
But even still, we do our best to call back as soon as possible.
I love it. Well, I don't want to keep you from getting to somebody else who might want to get through. I'm glad that we did that, because I was expecting to be disappointed by some 16-year-old triaging me around to other resources that were uninspired documents and online forms and things of that nature, or old videos like HR stuff that you have to watch about sexual harassment that doesn't actually operate in the real world. But that was pretty good. I didn't go all the way to the resources. My expectation, though, is that they would be at least as good as she was on the phone. I would love it for Instagram to start making moves in this direction for stuff like aches, pains, chronic pain especially, because one of the things that you heard her say on that call was that eating disorders are on the rise, and she couldn't directly say so, but there's a likely correlation between greater use of social media and eating disorders being on the rise. But what most people don't know about people who suffer from chronic pain is that 44% of them will develop anxiety, 36% of them will develop depression. It's the number one cause of early retirement from jobs that people actually like, and it costs the United States more money in healthcare spend than cancer, diabetes, heart disease combined. So when we start to look at pain as a source that people are looking for relief from on social media platforms, I think it actually might be a good idea to move in the direction of getting people on the phone with reputable professionals like that. A crazy thing that I picked up on during that call with was she said they only get 40 calls a day. There are almost 30 million Americans who suffer from eating disorders, and there are 170 million Americans on Instagram. I don't know if that means that they're not searching for it or if they're not taking the next action when they see what I saw. But I hope more people do, because it's not necessarily just about the mental pain that comes from it. It's about being connected to a reputable resource who can actually help you solve the problem instead of scrolling through a bunch of people who are trolling on other people and giving bad advice.